We have Tina Jesson for Tina's Traditional Old English Kitchen back again. Good to have you.
Hi there.
Are we talking about the pleasures of high tea or the health benefits or all of it?
The health benefits of tea. Tea's really starting to come into its own again. It's went a bit out of fashion in the 60s and 70s, but in the last 10 years or so we're starting to see more tea houses and tea rooms opening up. And there's some great benefits, health benefits that are being found about different types of tea. And people sometimes say to me, Tina, how many types of tea are there?
Oh, ridiculous amount.
It's how many stars in the sky?
Oh,
I mean, really,
it's
it's infinite. But what I've brought today for this area here, I'm looking at what I call real tea. This is Camilla sinensis, the actual tea plant.
Okay.
And you could potentially make all teas from Camilla sinensis, but there's 1,500 varieties of that particular plant alone. That's before we start looking at herbals, which I'll look at later. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with the most caffeinated of all teas, which is the breakfast tea, which is a black tea. It has about 50% less caffeine than a cup of coffee would. So already you're starting to reduce the caffeine. Typically in Britain we would serve English breakfast tea with a splash of milk, but I've left it without any milk just so that you can see the depth of colour and how beautiful that actually is. The next one along I've got here is an Earl Grey. Have you ever tried Earl Grey?
Absolutely.
It's quite fragrant. This one I have has a little lavender in there, but what makes Earl Grey different to regular black tea is it has bergamot, which is a dried orange peel. And that's what gives it that lovely fragrance. And I actually make some tea bread with the Earl Grey tea, where you actually soak the fruit in the tea. Again, it's the same amount of caffeine because it's the same tea. To make it go black, they actually dry it, put steam over it, and then blast it with hot air, and actually turns it from green to black. And that's where you get the most caffeine. And this is the oldest tea. The tea tips have been on the plant the longest.
Wow.
And the color is just beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's like a honey color.
It is. And this is because we're looking at Ceylon teas from the Ceylon area of India. It gives a very clear color. Certainly when you're making iced tea, that's the one to look out for. Then one that I've only just really got into myself, again, based on a black tea, but it's called chai.
That's what I'm smelling, I think, right now.
The
one's very fragrant tea.
And again, it's based on a black tea, but then it has a lot of herbs added into that. And obviously you're getting a lot of health benefits from the herbs as well as from
Chai tea has a really good marketing department, doesn't it? Because it seems to be really gaining a lot. It's on a lot of menus and places that don't serve.
It really is out there. And the great thing about chai tea, when you look at the history of it, is every family in India would have their own blend of chai tea with different herbs.
So,
customized.
So
signature,
it's a kind of a signature thing. So chai, absolutely fantastic. Then we've got green, the one that you
that's right. That's my favorite.
Green tea hasn't been turned black. So this is green tips, just steamed and a little dried and steamed. So that's the closest that you're going to get to the original leaf. And it's not got as much caffeine in there. You're looking at probably 10% caffeine.
Oh, really?
So it's a lot less caffeinated than the full tea.
No wonder I drink so much of it.
That's right.
And then
my headache when I was drinking it.
White tea is really interesting because this is the tips of the tea just as they very first start to produce in the springtime. And it's before the chlorophyll has risen in the leaf. So it is actually white. And that has only about 1% of caffeine. So that's really low.
You could have that in the evening or something.
But it's really, really pale on its own. This is actually a blend with green tea because it's so subtle on the palate you might not even taste it. Especially if you're used to caffeine and lots of coffee, you might not notice it so much. So often it's blended with green. So would you like to try one?
Go ahead, Go ahead. You want to try one? You're a tea drinker. I've ruined my palate already with the coffee.
Let's try the black tea on the end there.
The black tea. This is going to have a lot of tannin in it. With not having milk, you're going to find it's a little bit more bitter. Quite strong.
It is strong, but when you compare it to something like coffee,
that's
coffee.
Right.
It's that's very
you mentioned later we're going to talk herbals later, right?
What, sorry?
Herbals?
Herbals,
sorry.
We're
going to talk those later, and we're also going to talk about where we can track you down. Your stuff is in different locations, and you're a bit of a tea nomad.
pop-up tea room.
Pop-up tea room.
Tea room.
Yeah.
It sounds so much
fun.
better when you Awesome. Thanks for sticking around.